Alrighty, so I am going to try to keep my voices down because at the time of this recording, it is 25 minutes past midnight here in Salt Lake City, and I was actually debating whether or not should I actually do this review, should I maybe wait until I get back home, but I thought, you know what, might as well do it right now so I don't have to worry about it tomorrow when I get back home. But that being said, I am going to have to keep my voices down because I don't want to wake up anybody while doing this review 25 minute past midnight. And also in terms of this 11 game action, well, it's like Mother Nature. We're not friendly in terms of these 11 game action because there were two games that actually ran very late. In fact, the game that I went to, which was RSL versus Minnesota, that was supposed to be the last game that was going to happen, and it turns out there was actually one more game that actually kicked off later than the one that I of course went to. So by the time my game that I went to was done, one of the other game, which was Austin FC versus the Portland Timbers, were still going on. So I was able to kind of watch the game while I was on my way back because, you know, while that game, of course, were still going, I of course want to watch it just to try to get as much MLS soccer I can watch as I'm here in Salt Lake City to, of course, watch the Loons play against Real Salt Lake, which I'll talk about a little bit later, of why I decided not to do a kind of a reaction video right after the game like I always do whenever I go on a Loons away day kind of thing as I did this week. Now, the other thing I want to also mention is that this was also not a great week for teams that were at the top of the standings if you're not named the Philadelphia Union, because pretty much the top three team, again, if you're not named the Union, all lost this week. And we start off, speaking of the Philadelphia Union, let's actually start off with them. And keep in mind, this is kind of out of order a little bit, so I'm going to try my best in terms of the timestamp to get these game right. But we start off with the first one between the Union and Atlanta United, and it was pretty much normal business resumed in terms of this game where, you know, for a while maybe you thought Atlanta might have a shot at it, but then you got to remember this is the Philadelphia Union, and right now I think it is pretty clear that they are simply the best team in the league as we speak. Now also I'm going to read off my phone here because I pretty much keep all the notes on my phone today. And in the first half, I thought that was not much happening in the first 15 minutes as neither goalkeeper has been tested, but that all changed in the 17th minute when Julian Carranza scored from Michael Aru to give the Union a 1-0 lead. And I mean, it's not a big surprise that Carranza got on the score sheet again because, you know, he's been red hot lately and continue to make Inter Miami regret in terms of letting him go for such a cheap price. But that lead quickly diminished because in the 24th minute, another guy that's been scoring a lot of goals and are kind of an unlikely goal scored before a couple of weeks ago when he finally scored his first career MLS goal, Andrew Gutman. He scored again here in this time, but you know, this was actually originally a great save that Blake of course made, but he did kind of allow a rebound and, you know, heads up play that there for Andrew Gutman. I mean, usually when you see players decided to react from a rebound, they maybe might react a little bit slowly. Not in this case for Andrew Gutman because he made a diving header to basically get there, and he did not just able to do so before Blake can actually smother it. And yeah, Atlanta was all tied up at one apiece, and you're thinking maybe, just maybe, Atlanta United can. Well, no. Philly was immediately back on the front foot as they were looking to get the lead back. Rios Nova denied Uru from close range before Lennon somehow cleared the ball off the line after the ball was kind of rolling toward a goal. Like, everybody thought that was the second goal for the Philadelphia Union, but Brooks Lennon with some emergency defending there to clear that ball off the line. Then Blake denied Araujo of a rare opportunity for Atlanta, but it was just a matter of time before Philly can have a chance to get themselves the lead back, and they do right on the stroke of halftime as another guy that's been informed, Michael Uruk, he would score here to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union. And this was kind of unfortunate for Atlanta and certainly for the youngster Caleb Wiley because he basically deflected that one into the back of the net, but the Union wouldn't care. They were leading 2-1 as we head into the second half with that score. In the second half, Carranza looked to score his second goal, but he hits the side netting, and the Union looked like they were rolling again. Like they were looking for that third goal, though Amada did blast it high despite being open in the box. And you know the old saying, when you are the inferior team and you don't take advantage of your opportunity, it's going to come back to bite you. And it bite Atlanta big time, because in the 69th minute, another guy that has been informed, Daniel Gastak, he scored here from Burke and Carranza to make it 3-1 in favor of the Union before Burke struck the post on the header in the 76th minute. I mean, I was expecting him to score that one, because with the way that Corey Burke seems like a guy that is almost, I wouldn't say he's got like the closer, but he's the guy that always tends to score late goals. You know, in a blowout, I thought that was going to be another one of those, and you know, unfortunately, he wasn't able to put that one in. But it was pretty clear that the Union was smelling blood in this game, and this could get ugly for Atlanta, because we know about the Union. I made a video about just a couple of days ago. This team, in terms of the offense, it is basically feast and famine, and lately it has been feast big time, and they have put up crooked numbers on the board, and it looked like they were going to do it again in this game. Dwyer then heads it wide from close range before Rios Novo denied Burke, but then he allowed a rebound, which Carranza couldn't quite put that one away. But then in the 4th minute stoppage time, you know, another thing that the Union have always done in terms of the blowout game is that you're always going to get a youngster scoring a goal, and this time it seems like it's Nathan Hario's turn to do so, as he would score the 4th goal here for the Union in the 4th minute stoppage time. And yeah, that of course was the final score of this game, as the shots in this one, 22 shots compared to 18 that Atlanta has. So there was a lot of shots in this game, 40 shots combined for both of these teams. 8 shots on goal compared to 5 that Atlanta has. 10 shots off target compared to 4 that Atlanta has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that Atlanta has. Or actually, I'm sorry, 5 shots that was blocked for Atlanta compared to 4 that the Union has. And possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that the Philadelphia Union has in this game. But it doesn't matter, because the Philadelphia Union is just straight on rolling right now. I mean, they are simply the best team in the league, and if the playoffs started today, I don't think anybody would have bet against the Union of going all the way and winning the cup, because they are hitting on all cylinder right now. And Atlanta United, you know, I talk about how they really need to stay consistent. Well, unfortunately, I didn't realize that the next game is against the Union, and when I found that they were playing against the Union on the road, oh boy, so much for that consistency, and so much for maybe hopes in terms of making the playoffs. I mean, I will say the only good news is that we do have one big team that is currently above the red line in the Eastern Conference playoff race that did also lost, and I'll talk about which team that is. And you know, that team that of course lost that game really gave a lot of hope for a lot of these teams that is chasing themselves to get above the red line, and one of them is Toronto FC, who of course in a game where, you know, as I mentioned, for the rest of the season for TFC, it is pretty much a must-win situation, especially at home, and they don't get it done. They actually had to fight back to get the lead in this one, but the inability of closing them down, and also, you know, that wonder kid called Ricky Puke, yeah, it turns out he decided that he was going to have his moment in this one too. So early on, in the 4th minute, Vasquez would set wide from close range. By the way, I forgot to mention, this is also the Greg Vanny derby, because you know Greg Vanny, of course, playing against his former team, and a lot of these Galaxy players were facing against their former team too, with Victor Vasquez being one of them. Benedeschi then heads it just high from 10 yards out before Thompson puts it wide off a deflection, and it was an early opportunity for both of these teams. That would continue in the 10th minute when Insigne tried to go for Olympico but puts it wide. I know that TFC has had a knack in terms of trying to go for Olympico, whether it's Insigne or Bernardeschi. It seems like they're falling in love in terms of trying to go for Olympico, and you know, it's good that they of course keep trying, but it's get to a point where maybe they probably shouldn't do so, consider, you know, I'm pretty sure those defenders and especially those players in the box are probably a little bit frustrated the fact that they get to be in good position to head it in, and their teammate that's taking the corner is being selfish, trying to score a goal that doesn't happen very often, not only in MLS but in the general of soccer too. But one thing that did happen is a wonderful free kick, as in the 24th minute, Douglas Costa, we know he can definitely strike a free kick, and he definitely does it here, as he gives the Galaxy a 1-0 lead. And I thought, you know, TFC, despite the fact that they respond pretty well, they had most of the possession, they were not being good on the attack. It was just way too slow for them whenever they go on the attacking end. Insigne then blasts one into the stands. Just readjust myself a little bit because of my back is kind of hurting a little bit, and I kind of want to see if I can like maybe sit in this chair. Actually, just quickly do that. Just quickly readjust this. Don't want to fall down here for a second. So maybe readjust my camera a little bit so I can maybe just kind of relax here a little bit. Again, if the video quality of this is not very good, I do apologize that, because you know how it is whenever I go on vacation, it's kind of a little bit makeshift. But anyway, where was I? Oh yes, Insigne then blasts one into the stands as the shots were 6-3 in favor of TFC, but you know, both of the shots on target was in favor of the Galaxy. There was a shot for a handball for the host that was not given, as we had to halftime with the Galaxy leading 1-0. Now in the second half, there was no yellow card that was given to there was no red card that was given to Lucas McNulton after VAR stand the original yellow card, and I think in the end they got that call right. I mean, in some way, I kind of feel that was a little bit kind of silly that they actually got a VAR, because you could clearly see McNulton, you know, even though he did kick the ball to a TFC player, I don't think it was totally intentional, and that it was kind of maybe just out of frustration there, which we usually see when a player gets frustrated because he commits a foul there. But to go to VAR, maybe look a potential sending off, I think that was kind of a little bit unnecessary, and it kind of frustrates TFC too, because that's more time off the clock when they're chasing to trying to get an equalizer. And it looked like they did in the 55th minute when Bernadeschi puts it into the back of the net, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside. Also, let me just get my notebook back because I've got to write the timestamp of this. Grandsir then blasted high from long range, but then in the 63rd minute, TFC did get the equalizer. It's Jimenez scoring from Achara and Bradley to tie the game up for TFC, and you know that goal means a lot for Jesus Jimenez. I mean, he's been really struggling in terms of scoring goals there, and that he finally got one there to go in. And then on the other end, it looked like the Galaxy was looking to retake the lead, and of all player that was going to do it, it was Kevin Cabral, and you know that one wasn't going to go in. Though Bono did have to make a save in terms of it, but you know, with Kevin Cabral being one of the most cursed number 9 in the league, yeah, that was just not going to be for him. Alvarez then hits one straight to Bono, and I thought the Galaxy did well in terms of responding well and trying to retake the lead ever since they conceded the equalizer. But unfortunately, in the 80th minute, they would commit a penalty, and it's Raheem Edwards, the former TFC player, kind of being a little bit of a double agent, decided to bring down Bernadeschi in the box, which Bernadeschi, of course, won the penalty. He should be the one that takes the penalty, and he buries that one to give the lead for TFC. And you're just thinking, this is exactly what TFC needed. They desperately need all 3 points to get themselves in a very good position to go above the red line. And then, as I mentioned before, Ricky Puke happened, and he scored here in the 89th minute to score his first career MLS goal. And you know, we talk about this year, whenever there's a first career MLS goal that is being scored, it always tends to be an absolute banger, and this was an absolute banger from Ricky Puke. I mean, just a curling of a shot that hit top bins there. Alex Bono had absolutely zero chance of saving that one. I mean, even the best goalkeeper in the world is not going to that, because of how perfectly put that curler was from Ricky Puke. And yeah, that ties the game up at 2 apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, TFC had 13 shots compared to 12 that the Galaxy had. 5 shots on goal compared to 2 that TFC had. 6 shots off target compared to 2 that the Galaxy had. Both teams had 5 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, the Galaxy had the better of the possession. 58% possession compared to 42% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And you know, again, for TFC, this will be a very frustrating result, because, like I said, you know, for the rest of the season, these games at home is an absolute must-win. Like, they need to get 3 points at home, which has been a place that they've been very, very good, at least lately. And dropping points like this is not going to help their playoff causes. But for the Galaxy, I think they'll take it. I mean, I know they'll be frustrated that they were leading for a long time, and they gave up 2 goals to basically had TFC the lead for at one point, but they did get themselves one back, and the fact that they, even though they are now below the red line, because as I'll tell you a little bit later, that the Timbers got a big win against Austin. They do have games in hand over the Timbers, who was the last team to make it if the playoffs begin. In fact, they actually have 2 games in hand, so they're still in a very good position, and that in some way that they still control their own destiny in terms of if we do play even amount of games, which we will do for every single team, the Galaxy can still get above the red line if they can win those games in hand. And the key is win and get points in those games in hand, because if you don't do that, then yeah, the Galaxy could be in trouble. But that being said, moving on, in the next match is the game that I win, which is RSL versus Minnesota United 2. And the reason why I say it's Minnesota United 2 or MNUFC 2 is because, yeah, this was basically a B team that the Loons put against RSL. And, I know that this game is a match where there was a possibility. I was thinking that Adrian Heath was just going to punt this game away because, after getting that big win against Houston, and then the reserve fall very favorable to the Loons later on with RSL and Dallas getting a draw and dropping points over the weekend, you just kind of had a sense that this game was a little bit meaningless, and that, maybe Adrian Heath was going to throw this game away by putting the B team. And that's exactly what happened. And also, that's exactly why I didn't really want to kind of do a post-match reaction from the stadium, because, there wasn't really much I can say about this game other than the fact that when I saw that Adrian Heath decided to go with the B team, I knew we were going to lose this game. Like, if you think about this team, and, one of the things that I've talked about that has been a big problem for this team, and there's been a lot of big problems with this Loons team, even if they're considered, they're right now being the top 3 teams in the Western Conference, it's the depth. They don't really have a lot of that, and in this game it kind of showed in full sense that just for them to kind of put in the B team, yeah, you knew it wasn't going to work out against an RSL team that is in desperate need to get all 3 points, and they did exactly that in this game. Now, early on, and they actually got the opening goal just 7 minutes in, as Cordova would score to give RSL a 1-0 lead. But yeah, this was just terrible defending from the back line. And even though, my reaction in this game will be kind of like, it is what it is. It's a throwaway game. If there is one concern I have with the Loons coming out of this game, is the back line. And we knew that this was going to be a problem. Like, as soon as Bakai Debasi is done for the season, we knew that there was some huge concern in terms of this back line and how it's going to look. And after this game, it does not give me any confidence that it could be a team that could go far in the playoffs. If this is kind of the back line that we'd see, because first, Brett Coleman, a guy that has been kind of the most criticized player, or at least one of the most criticized player in the Loons fan base. Well, unfortunately, he kind of made the fan base justify why they hated him starting, because he basically just popped this ball back into play, or back into the dangerous area instead of clearing it. And then you also got to question Alan Benitez of what in the world was he doing there. Like, he literally just got completely turned apart there from Cordova, and Cordova basically slots it home to give RSL a 1-0 lead. Terrible defending there from Brent Coleman, but even more criminal defending from Alan Benitez. And this is not the first time I've said it. I mean, Benitez, as good as he is going forward on the attack, he is absolutely dreadful in defense. And it's getting to a point where I'm thinking, why not just put Benitez as a winger? Why not just put him as a winger, because we know he's good in terms of his delivery, or at the very best, put him as a right wing back. Don't put him as a fullback, because we know that in terms of defensive assignment that he needs to make, he's not very good at it, and there's a great example of it. But as expected, I also wrote the defense has been leaky at best, but going forward, the build-up, I thought at the point of when I saw it, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I feel like, yes, there was still a clear drop of a level in terms of how the team builds up and in terms of the final third, because, there's no Reynoso, there's no Fragapani, and there definitely is no in there for this game because the Loons they decided to not start any of these guys. In fact, Reynoso didn't even made it to the 18, and that again I get it. I get why they decided to rest Reynoso in this game because I think he's only like one yellow card away from getting suspended, and if he gets suspended in this game against RSL in that crucial match against Dallas that he's gonna miss, oh boy, that is gonna be a huge miss for this Loons team, and without him and also the other lethal attacker, you knew it was not going to work for him. Like you knew that as soon as I saw the likes of Denlati on that starting 11, I knew that this is going to be a long day for the Loons on the attack, and I feel so bad for Mender Garcia, who got his first start in this game, but yeah, he basically was left on an island because he was basically getting no service from both Denlati and Huwane throughout this game. But in the 24th minute, RSL gets the second goal. It's Savarino who scored to make it 2-0 in favor of RSL. And again, Brent Coleman, I mean, another helper there. I mean, he basically didn't do a good job in terms of blocking that cross. In fact, he tipped it right into the path of Jefferson Savarino, and Savarino said, "Thank you very much." It's a tap in for him. And yeah, just like that, RSL was leading 2-0. And then it could have been 3-0, but Savarino blasts one into the stands. And 33 minutes in, the Loons had 0 shots in the up to that point. In fact, they wouldn't actually get their first shot in this game until the second half in this. In the 41st minute, Merriam puts it wide as it was all RSL up to that point. And again, as expected, because I knew that the Loons were not going to have any chances in this one. And that, the only thing I was hoping is maybe they can get a lucky draw, but, conceding 2 goals inside 30 minutes pretty much kill that chance. And we had to halftime with RSL leading 2-0. And if any Minnesota United fans decided not watch this one, I wouldn't blame them whatsoever. I mean, I actually did stay for the whole game in this one because, I know that I don't want to just leave this team after traveling so far to watch this game, but I don't think you could blame me for maybe even thinking about leaving this game early because you knew that they had no shots in terms of coming back from this one. Now, in the second half, Miller did come in for Dane Sinclair in this, which I was kind of a little surprised, but then I realized that Dane Sinclair, he kind of had to be patched up a little bit in the first half after conceding that second goal. And when I saw that, I was kind of holding my breath because I was worried if it's going to be a fingering injury, and knowing, if you're a goalkeeper and you have an injury that involves your hand, that is a big injury. But fortunately, from what I heard, it seems like Nate Sinclair dislocated his finger on that second goal that he conceded, but the trainer was able to pop it back in, and the only reason why they decided to sub him off was for precautionary reason, and I don't blame them because up to that point the game was already done. I don't think they need to necessarily put Dane Sinclair in there. So Miller, of course, gets the chance for the first time this season, and I think after what I saw from Tyler Miller in the second half is a perfect example of why he's not a regular starter for this team. And to think that a couple weeks ago that was a possibility with how poor Dane Sinclair form has been, oh boy, thank God Dane Sinclair rebounded because Miller was wide in this game. But the other substitution, including Lud coming in from Danladi and Fisher coming in from Benitez, and I thought those substitutions really helped the Loons. I mean, Lud really provides some stability in the midfield, and also Fisher definitely done much better in the defensive shape compared to what Alan Benitez was in the first half. Though, that being said, in the 49th minute, the first big action came for Miller after he kind of got caught in no man's land, and Savarino was trying to chip it over him, but it was cleared off the line. Get used to me saying that because that's what Tyler Miller did. Like, his indecision to come off his line or not was very bad in this game. Like, he was trying to be Manuel Neuer, except not even being close to the skill of Manuel Neuer and being a sweeper keeper. But in the 54th minute, or actually in the 51st minute, Miriam actually hits one straight to Miller before the first shot on goal for Minnesota finally came in the 54th minute, as Bungie, who wanted, missed just high in the back post. That was probably the best chance that the Loons had this whole game. Like, he was just wide open in the back post, and I know Huwane is not known to be a goal scorer But yeah, that's one that I think he would love to have that back, and at least maybe give a fake hope to the Loons, maybe have a chance to get one back. But I thought that it was getting better for the Loons. I mean, in the first half, it was relatively poor on both ends, but the attack definitely looked a little bit better. It kind of helps when you start bringing some of those starters in, doesn't it? In the 66th minute, Rosales with fires it high from long range before Led fires it high from long range also. I thought RSL kind of dropped their intensity a little bit. They weren't really going for it as much as I saw in the first 20 minutes. And in general, when I watch how RSL played in this game, I didn't think they play at their best in this one. I mean, there's been times where they were kind of misplaying some of those passes, and that there's also time where they waited way too long in terms of whether decided to maybe pass it along or maybe just take a shot. So those indecision on the attacking end wasn't really that good for RSL. But you know, the good news for RSL is they were basically playing against a backline that is basically made out of Swiss cheese, and also playing a goalkeeper known as Tyler Miller. That, you know, he definitely showed a lot of rust in this one, because in the 79th minute, RSL would get that third goal. It's Anderson Julio coming off the bench, scoring from Andrew Brody to make it 3-0 in favor of the host. And while I know a lot of people will blame Miller for this, and that Miller eventually got burned because of the way that he came off this line so many times throughout this game, even though he doesn't need to do so, this one is definitely on Trapp. And when I saw how Trapp basically gave up on that play, I knew that if RSL was going to score, that was going to be on him, because you simply cannot just give up a play in the midfield and let the other team go on the transition. Like, I get it. Yes, you're down 2-0. You're tired because of the altitude. I mean, it is very hot today in Salt Lake City. Temperature we're almost 100 degrees, but you simply cannot just give up on the play like that. Like, I don't care if we're down 2-0. I don't care if this is a throwaway game. That was criminal defending there from World Trap, and that was kind of one of the only times that I actually got very frustrated. Like, in this game, I had no expectation whatsoever after the start. Saw the lineup, and that in some way I was kind of mellow throughout this game too. I wasn't really cheering a lot because I know what's going to happen, but that was really one of the time when I actually did show a little bit of emotion, where I was just fuming. Like, really, Will Trapp? Like, how that, even in a game like this where I know it's over, at least show some effort in terms of it. And that kind of just sums up the Loons' performance throughout this game, where, you know, this B team that they have, yeah, let's just say that, let's hope we won't see this lineup ever again. And it just kind of also summarizes how this team just don't have the depth to do so. But now heading into the game against Dallas, I'm just hoping that things eventually will be better, and I'm assuming it will be. I mean, once the starters come back into this team, it will be much better on the attack. But one thing I'm still very concerned is the defense. And I mean, you know, I know John Anthony Brooks have been reported to sign a contract with Mallorca, and it seems like him going to the Loons is now a pipe dream. But they need to find somebody, because I am really concerned now that, you know, heading into the playoffs when we play some of the best team, you cannot tell me with the likes of Coleman and Boxholm and even DJ Taylor or Alan Benitez, and you can tell me in a straight face that I am confident that is going to be one good backline that will get the job done for this team. In fact, I would say that that's a first round exit backline that I see right now, and that, yeah, Adrian Heath need to do something, and this front office need to do something to address that before it could be an early exit for this team. And if it's an early exit this season, it will be considered very disappointing considering the momentum that they built themselves in for the past 10 games. But that being said, I forgot to talk about the stats. 12 shots compared to 4 that Minnesota has. 7 shots on goal compared to none that Minnesota has. 2 shots off target compared to 4 that Minnesota has. 3 shots that is blocked compared to none that the Loons had. And possession-wise, RSL had the better possession. 53% possession compared to 47% possession that the Loons has in this game. But that being said, moving on into the next game. And I do apologize if I spent a little too long talking about, because I did attend that game. we're going to talk about Montreal versus the New York Red Bulls, and in a game where it was between one team that is very good on the road versus a team that has been in incredible form and trying to chase down the top team in the Eastern Conference. It turned out the team that was very good on the road was able to be the better side and get the 3 points. As the Red Bulls, I mean, this season they have been by far one of the best, if not the best, road team this season, and they proved it again by going to Montreal against a very hot team and able to walk away with all 3 points. Now, in the first half, Morgan did with a shot that goes wide, as I thought the Red Bulls were off to the better start, though I didn't think the final goal was very good for the Red Bulls early in this one. Torres then fires it wide from long range, as that I thought was Montreal's first opportunity, before Harper blasted high from long range, and then Manuel getting his first start for the Red Bulls in this one. He puts one right to Pentemes, and he actually had another opportunity in the 35th minute as he actually not only put that one on target, but Pentemes had to palms that one away, and there was no doubt the Red Bulls were starting creating some good half chances, and they were pushing for the opening goal. Morgan blasted high from close range to the 36th minute before Cornell had to deny Kyoto from the near post, but then in the 43rd minute, after all the pressure the Red Bulls put against Montreal, they finally scored. It's Lewis Morgan scoring from Caceres Jr. to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead, because of course it has to be Lewis Morgan, one of the most lethal attackers for the Red Bulls this season, and also another player that Inter Miami are dearly regret in terms of letting him go just a year ago. Now, Schreiner did try to respond for Montreal from long range, but he blasted that one high before we had to have time with the Red Bulls leading 1-0. Now, in the second half, the Red Bulls were trying to chase for that second goal. Pentemes would deny Caceres Jr. before Harper tried to chip it to Pentemes after he goes through on goal, but puts that one high. And again, the Red Bulls coming out strong, and they were looking to try to get that second goal. And I thought Montreal just didn't look like they were their old self. Like, there was some very sloppy defending for Montreal, and that's kind of one of the things that maybe could be a problem for them heading into the playoffs. I mean, I know that I've said before that this team can definitely beat can be at their when they're at the best. They can of course beat anyone, but against that shoddy defense that have shown some vulnerability. If they do play against the best team like the Philadelphia Union, for example, I don't know if they can afford to have that bad defense face against the best team right now in the Eastern Conference and in general the best team in the league, because with how hot that Union attack is, that attack is just going to completely rip apart that Montreal defense that has been suspect at times this season. Though that being said, Majevic then blasted wide from close range before Mahajevic heads it wide in the 81st minute, and then I immediately wrote that it feels like Montreal finally realized that they were actually a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference, because for 80 minutes they forgot that they were one of the best teams in the league, and they were starting to try to get the equalizer. And I also feel like it's butt clenching time for the Red Bulls, and that it feels like they better hope that the narrative doesn't come back to bite them, where the narrative for these past couple of months, it seems like when you don't kill the game off, it's going to come back to haunt you, and that especially is true for road team. But thankfully for the Red Bulls, they survived and they got the 1-0 victory in this one, as the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 9 that the Red Bulls had, 4 shots that is on goal compared to 1 that Montreal has, 7 shots that's off target for the 4 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 68% possession compared to 32% possession that the Red Bulls has in this game. But like I said many times this season, possession doesn't matter for the Red Bulls. Like, in fact, they always are a team that has the least amount of possession, and that maybe is the reason why they've done so well on the road, because when you don't have the ball and you can of course press opposition, sometimes that's why you can of course get win, which is also why I think for the Red Bulls where they're standing right now, this probably does not favor them with the way that they're being one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, especially with them being in 4th position, and they're going to host a playoff game, and knowing how much they struggle at home, yeah, this could be a first round exit for the Red Bulls if they don't figure out their home form. But at least their road form has been amazing, and if they can keep up to this road form, maybe, just maybe, this might finally be the year for the Red Bulls to actually go deep and maybe even win the whole thing this season. Okay, maybe I shouldn't get too far into this because you know that so Metro moment is probably going to be happening this season for the Red Bulls if they do once again make it to the playoffs. But that being said, moving on in the next match. Before I actually move on to the next match, I'm gonna actually drink this Coke here again. I'm a bit tired, and I'm actually drinking Coke to try to keep myself awake, even though technically that probably is not a good idea, doing it at 1 in the morning. But who the hell really cares? Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I mean, this is based. You know how MLS After Dark always have some funny things. This is MLS After Dark review that we're doing it right now. And actually, you know what? Let us actually now get to the next game. And the next game that I am going to talk about is going to be Columbus and Inter Miami. And also, I think I might have screwed up in terms of my timestamp because now I think I wrote 2 times. Oh yeah, of course I screw up the time there. I already wrote the time there. But anyway, moving on, in the next match we got Columbus versus Inter Miami, which in the end Columbus, of course, getting the big 1-0 victory against Inter Miami in a game where I mentioned before this was a playoff 6-pointer. This was a game that, you know, if you were a team that is below the red line, I think a lot of them would have been rooting for the Columbus Crew because Columbus does have games in hand over them, whereas Miami don't have games in hand over the teams that is below them. So when they found out that Columbus got the big victory over Inter Miami, a lot of team below the red line was absolutely thrilled because now, you know, for Inter Miami, they're maybe in serious trouble right now because there is a lot of team below them that are hungry in terms of getting points, including one team below them that actually do have a game in hand with them, which is FC Cincinnati, and that in some way they don't actually control their own destiny anymore, just like what they used to coming into this playoff 6-pointer. Now, early on, in the first 20 minutes, let's not talk about that because it was absolutely boring. The first shot actually didn't came until the 24th minute as Cucho blasted wide from long range. Marsman then denied Cucho from long range in the 28th minute because, you know, Cucho Hernandez, he's always going to be a threat for Inter Miami, or not Inter Miami, I'm sorry, for the Columbus Crew. 1 a.m., all right? Taylor then had Miami's first chance, but puts it way wide before Higuain blasted just wide in the 44th minute, and the chances were starting to come for both of these teams. I mean, after there was nothing that was going on for the first 22 minutes, chances was coming for both of these teams. Cucho had another opportunity. In fact, he kind of goes on his bike, and somehow, despite the fact that he decided to attempt a bicycle kick goal, this one actually hits it off the turf. I mean, when you see a bicycle kick goal, either it goes very badly or it actually just kind of puts it into the net. But you rarely see a bicycle kick that when someone strike it, it basically hits it off the turf and do it like a one-hopper. But it did in that play, and in some way it had a lot of English in terms of the one-hopper because this one was actually going to be going over the head of Marsman and was going to go into the back of the net, but Sailor was just in the right place, right time to clear that one away and prevent that from being a spectacular goal that the Crew, of course, opened the scoreline, especially for Cucho Hernandez. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams, and the second half, Cucho continued to try to get the Crew the opening goal. He fired one just wide from close range as the Crew were once again on the front foot and they were pressing for the opener. Diaz fires one into the supporter stands before he fires one straight to Marsman in the 60th minute, but then in the 63rd minute he was on target as he would score here from Maria to give Columbus a 1-0 lead in a goal that you just kind of had a feeling it was inevitable. Like, there was so much pressure that Columbus was putting on Inter Miami that you knew that eventually they were going to break through. Though that being said, you know, throughout these last couple of Crew games, there's been time where they had those opportunities to get that crucial lead, but they weren't able to do so, and hence that's why there's been a couple of very frustrating 0-0 draw that the Crew has been putting at home, but not in this game. They finally found that breakthrough, and that gives them a 1-0 lead. Etienne then hits one right to Marsman before Cucho just puts it high on the free kick. And again, it's been all Columbus up to that point, but you just had a feeling that, again, when you don't kill the game off, you're letting opposition stay into this one, bad thing usually happen. And Inter Miami realized that, hey, it's only a 1-goal game. They maybe might think about taking some risks so that they can maybe get a late equalizer. And they definitely do so late in this game as Higuain puts it just wide on the doorstep of goal in the 90th minute. And then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, oh man, Indiana Vassilev. We know he is a guy that is like the closer for Inter Miami, and he has scored some dramatic late goal. And I think he thought that he did it again here because he had a free header there. It looked like for a second it was going to smash into the back of net, but unfortunately he hits one right into Eloy Rome. And yeah, Columbus, it was a little bit shaky late in this game, but they survived and won 1-0 and got a massive 3 points to really boost their playoff hope. But the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 4 that Miami has, 3 shots on goal compared to 1 that Miami has, 6 shots that was on target compared to 3 that Miami has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to none that Miami has, and possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. But most crucially for the Crew, with them getting this 3 points, and I believe they overtake Inter Miami to 6th position, and not to mention they do have the games in hand over the team below them, it's safe to say that they're in a very good position to try to make it to the playoffs. But like I said, that cannot be said for Inter Miami. The road struggle continue, and like I said, every single team that is below the red line that still has a chance, they must be very happy. The fact that Columbus Crew just did them a huge favor, and now all those teams that either drop points or lose in this midweek action, at least it's not over yet for some of these teams. And then again, the Eastern Conference race and alongside with the Western Conference playoff race, it's going to get very interesting as we get closer and closer into decision day. In fact, at the time of this recording, and as we head now into September, we're now exactly about 1 month away from decision day, and from a day where I expect there's going to be some chaos like what we saw last season in decision day. But that being said, moving on into the last game on this board before I switch board is NYCFC versus DC United, and the curse of Red Bull Arena continue for NYCFC. I mean, I'm going to kind of call that because, this team, they just have a very poor record when they play at Red Bull Arena. And I think it kind of makes sense because, it's not really their home, and it's kind of embarrassing that they're playing in their rival stadium. But, it seems like the Red Bulls also kind of have that curse because they also can't win at home. So in general, that stadium is just not friendly to whoever is playing, and that's the case for NYCFC in this one, as in a game where it looked like this was a great bounce back chance against the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They end up losing to them. And in the first half, they had an opportunity in the 14th minute, but Aber blasts one right to Ochoa, but Ochoa spills it, and that's kind of one of the things about David Ochoa in his young career that's been a problem, where he sometimes allows some juicy rebound, but fortunately for this one, he did covers, and before Johnson did deny Durkins with an awkward kick save, but then in the 24th minute, DC would take the lead. It's Ola Kamara scoring from Durkin and Rodriguez to give DC a 1-0 lead, and it was terrible defending from NYCFC. I mean, we talk about so much of the struggle of NYCFC on the attack. A lot of people have been focused on the defense, and the defense for NYCFC has not been great whatsoever, and part of that has to do with them losing Alexander Cowan to injury, and it feels like they are definitely feeling the loss in terms of that. And that, yeah, in this play, Kamara just completely unmarked there from 2 yards out, and when you leave a player that open, completely unmarked from 2 yards out, and just simply tapped it in, yeah, something went wrong with your defense. But thankfully for NYCFC, they would actually get one back, and actually the lead wouldn't stay for long because Aber would score here from Amundsen and Rodriguez to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and I thought Ochoa probably should have done better in this. And again, David Ochoa, as much as he has definitely shown some promise in his young career, and at the times with DC United where he actually has been pretty decent, he still has a long way to go to be considered an elite goalkeeper and reach his potential. And this was kind of one where, I feel like he definitely could have done better because Aber kind of hit straight to him. I mean, he did get a hand to it, but it actually goes into the back of the net. And yeah, that of course ties the game up at 1 apiece. And that would actually be the scoreline heading into the second half, as the last 50 minutes of the first half, there was pretty much nothing to write about. Now, in the second half, Shreno would head it wide from the header before Tavon Braid actually had a free header, but he missed that one high. But it was a promising start for NYCFC. I mean, they were looking to try to take the lead, but it didn't happen because it would be DC, the one that take the lead against the run of play, and it's Steven Birnbaum. A rare goal for the DC defender here. He scored here from Rodriguez to make it hit 2-1 in favor of DC. And I mentioned how Ochoa probably should have done better in terms of the goal that he could see. Here, Sean Johnson clearly need to do better. I mean, again, this has been a huge concern, not only for NYCFC fans, but also for U.S. men's national team fans, that Sean Johnson, his form has not been great lately ever since NYCFC has been in this bad stretch that they have. And this is one that Birnbaum, again, hits it right to Sean Johnson. Usually, if Sean Johnson was on the best of his form, he would basically parry that one away, but he didn't do it in this play. And yeah, that gave DC United a 2-1 lead. But in the 73rd minute, DC had a chance to maybe make it 3-1, or at least they were trying to put this game away, because they summoned the guy that a lot of people haven't really kind of hyped up a lot, but it is still considered a kind of a big name in Christian Benteke, as he actually finally made his debut for DC United in this game. And his first action came in the 77th minute when he hits one right to Sean Johnson. And I will also want to say that besides the fact that NYCFC wasn't defending very well, it was being very stale whenever they go on the attack. And this, again, it's been a problem ever since Tati has left. This team has not looked the same on the attack. And, I talk about how Tati seems like he is holding the glue for this team, and that it feels like as the game goes on and NYCFC continue to struggle on the attack, that statement gets truer and truer as the day goes. Actually, truer? I don't even know if that's a real word. It's definitely a real word, because we're doing MLS review after dark right now. But yeah, I mean, they just look out of idea, look slow whenever they go on the attack. Pellegrini then hits a long-range effort wide. So Mateus Pellegrini, of course, another player that's been kind of a long lost name. He of course gets summoned in this one, and he almost scored on his debut. And speaking of scoring debut, Benteke almost did so too in the 88th minute, but he hits it wide from close range. Then Gray puts one wide from long range before Ochoa denies Zalano on the volley, as in the last bit NYCFC was really trying to push for that equalizer. But in the end, DC able to hold on to get a 2-1 win in this one, a rare road win for DC United this season. But the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 6 that DC has, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that NYCFC had, 6 shots off target for the 1 that DC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the none that DC had, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that DC has in this game. And overall, like I said, for NYCFC, there is a huge concern right now for this team, because even if this team make it to the playoffs, I feel like this is going to be a one-and-done team. And if you want to talk about a team that is clearly not prepared to make the run in the playoffs, that is still considered to be a top team, or maybe considered to be a pretender, NYCFC is basically the prime target. They have not been playing well in these last couple of games, and like I said, this was a chance for them to bounce back and maybe prove that they're still the lead in the East. And after taking an L in this one, it's safe to say that they don't belong at company, and that I'm pretty sure there are definitely some of those teams that is like maybe in the lower seed. They can't wait to play NYCFC, because I would say that if there is one game that if NYCFC still gets a home playoff game, there might be the team that everybody will bet that they're not going to make it out of the first round, and probably will lose to the first round because of the form that they've been in lately. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 5 games that finish off in terms of the match week number 27 of the Wednesday action that we have. So moving on, in terms of the next match, is Chicago versus New England. So you know how in the last game I talked about how both goalkeepers weren't doing very well and they were conceding goals that probably should have been saved? This was different. This was definitely a goalkeeping duel between two of the best goalkeepers. Well, actually, one of them is considered one of the most underrated goalkeeper, and then the other one, depending on how you look at it, sometimes could be good and sometimes could be bad. But also a guy that just got a $15 million transfer to Chelsea starting next season. But yeah, Gaga Slonina was definitely on his game in this one, and him alongside with Petrovic maybe is the reason why this game ended scoreless, but also maybe because both these teams just doesn't have their shooting boots in this game. Now, early on, Bo did drag it wide from close range before Buck did put it wide from long range in the 12th minute, but then a penalty was given to the Fire after VAR deemed that McNamara handballed that one in the box. I mean, that was pretty obvious, the fact that Tommy McNamara basically put an outstretched hand in the box, so no doubt that, of course, should be a penalty, but the Fire wasn't able to take advantage of it because Petrovic comes up big to deny Mueller from the spot. I mean, it was not a good penalty from Chris Mueller there. I mean, he didn't really hits that one very well, but credit to Petrovic, making a big save from the spot to keep this one in. But then 2 minutes later, you know how Tommy McNamara can see the penalty? Well, he looked like he was going to make up for it when he puts it into the back of net. The problem is the goal was disallowed because apparently the ball actually did went out of play on the developmental play, and they actually go to VAR to see whether if that is the case, and it definitely is. When you look on the replay, I think about a couple of seconds after when McNamara puts it in, it looked like the ball went out of play before all of that happened. So yeah, therefore the goal of course did not count. Then there was a dangerous ball that was coming in the box, which by and McNamara had a chance to score for the refs, but neither could do so. But you can definitely say that the refs were knocking on the door. But you just kind of also had a feeling that after in the last game where they lost to the Galaxy, where they had a lot of chances and they weren't able to bury it, and they basically come on the losing end because of it. Is this going to be one of those nights again where they miss chances? Now, we do head to halftime scoreless and heading into the second half, and also a little spoiler of what I just said. Yeah, that seems like was the case because you, of course, saw the score line and also talked about how both of these teams were definitely not good in terms of their finishing in this one. And an example of that in the 52nd minute happened as Duran actually went through on goal and had a chance to bury it, but he hits it into the side netting before slowing and absolutely robbing Gustavo Bo, who had a free header from 8 yards out. And then he would rob McNamara next in the 56th minute as McNamara had a point-blank effort that somehow Slonina was able to put this one away. And it feels like a combination of the refs struggling to finish and Slonina being at the top of his game is the reason why this game is still at scoreless and the refs have not found a way to score in this game. I mean, again, Gaga Slonina, I think eventually he is going to be developed to be a player that could be a decent goalkeeper, not only in his career, but also maybe for the U.S. men's national team in the future. I mean, right now, yes, he's a little bit inconsistent, but people gotta remember, he's still only 18 years old. And for a goalkeeper that young of age, you're going to get these consistency. And this is also why goalkeeping sometimes is such a tough spot to play because, if you make even a slight mistake, you heard about how a goalkeeper gets slated by that. But I feel like it's maybe it's starting to be a little bit unfair judging by such a young goalkeeper like that where I feel like all the hate of Slonina that I've heard about is kind of a little bit unjustified with the way that he's still a young goalkeeper. Young goalkeeper will make these kind of mistake, and that at least in this game he definitely shown the potential that he had, and he could definitely be one of the best goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team down the line. Though that being said, in the 57th minute, Hugh had another chance, but he had hit one right to Slonina before Petrovic denying Duran, and it feels like this was a goalie duel in this game. Like both of these goalkeepers were at the top of their game. Both then dragged one from Bo then dragged it wide from close range in the 71st minute before Duran puts it just wide from long range. And again, this game, it feels like it's up for grabs. I mean, if anybody can actually be a little bit better, just maybe for once being clinical in terms of finishing, there probably would have been a winner in this one. But instead, the post did definitely play the part of it, as in the 85th minute, Rivera actually struck the post there, but Hugh actually had a chance on the second crack of it as it rattled off the post, but that one was blocked off the line as he was trying to fire it on the rebound. Espinoza then had a towering header, but just could not quite time that jump correctly to head that one in. There was a huge shot for a penalty for the refs late in this game, but eventually the referee not only says that it's not a penalty after slowing looked like he took out Kessler in the box, but instead he blew for the float time whistle. Now, I know refs fans are probably very angry about this, and when I watched the condensed highlight, they didn't really show a replay of it because the full time whistle was blown. They didn't go back to show the highlights of that play. But when I look at it a couple of times and revert it a couple of times, I think in the end they got the call right. I mean, yes, I know Slonina did take Kessler down, but it's important to see whether or not Slonina actually got the ball first. And I think Slonina just got the ball first before he basically took down Kessler there. And when you do that as a goalkeeper, that consider a fair play. But in the end, like I said, neither of these teams were being clinical in their finishing, and it ends in a scoreless draw. As the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 10 that Chicago has, 5 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Fire has, 8 shots off target compared to 4 that the Fire has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that the Refs had, and possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that the Chicago Fire has in this game. And this result definitely does not help either of these teams. I mean, for the Fire, it is pretty clear that their playoff hope is pretty much close to being diminished. But for New England, again, they had a big opportunity to get themselves in a good position, knowing the fact that teams above them or in the playoff line have dropped points. But again, they weren't able to do so. And again, this kind of feels a little bit like the 2020 Revs, where remember that team just sneaked into the playoffs, and they eventually did win on a surprising Eastern Conference final run, and even some say that they're kind of ahead of schedule. Well, again, a lot of the reason why they kind of got ahead of schedule is that they finally found their finishing, and that's been kind of the problem for this Revs team in some of these games, where their finishing is just not good enough, and that if they want to make it to the playoffs and maybe have something similar to what we saw in that run in 2020, they got to figure out their finishing in the last couple of games left in this season. But that being said, moving on into the next game, and I just realized that I forgot my notepad over here. Just get my notepad over here. I forgot to put the timestamp in terms of the next game I'm going to talk about. But in terms of the next game I'm going to talk about is going to be the Houston Dynamo versus LAFC, and this is a very MLS type of result. I mean, I've said this before many times. In MLS, and only in MLS, when you have a battle between the best team in the league versus one of the worst team in the league, you sometimes still see the worst team in the league come out on top. And this was a prime example of that with the Houston Dynamo. It looked like they had no shot in this game against LAFC. They stunned LAFC by winning 2-1 in this game. And this was kind of a game where, again, I feel like this was similar to the one the Revs, of course, suffer the same fate against the Galaxy, where one team was just being a little bit more clinical, the other team wasn't, and had some bad luck involved. And that's the reason why they came off on the losing end. Though early on in the 11th minute, a penalty was given to the Dynamo as VAR deemed a handball, that one in the box. I mean, that was debatable whether or not it is, because I feel like maybe Ely did kind of tuck his hands enough where, even though if it's his hand, since he tucked it enough, maybe that, of course, should have been not called penalty. And it's also important to note, the original call was not a penalty. And this is where again, I don't want to once again create another rant about VAR. In fact, I don't even have the energy to once again rant about VAR play and why it's just being so inconsistent after last week. But this is another example then pulled it. I don't think that was clear and obvious, but again, it's just based on the crew. Maybe this crew feel like that was clear and obvious, and that, yeah, it was given the penalty, which Seba Ferreira was able to put that one away, and it gives the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. Though, good news for LAFC, they would quickly respond, as in the 19th minute, Chicho Arango would score from Vela to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and then Clark would then deny Opoku from close range in the 25th minute before Opoku actually struck the post from long range. I mean, Mahara Opoku, he had a very good game in this one. It's no surprise that he had a good game in this one, because when he came off the bench in that game against Austin FC, he definitely made a big impact in that one, and he definitely made that LAFC attack much more stronger, and that it's not a big surprise that coming into this game, starting in this game, he definitely made a big impact. But unfortunately, as it is kind of the story of this game for LAFC, they just could not finish. But at that time, it felt like normal service was resuming, because LAFC was pressing to trying to get that lead. Though on the other end, Seba Ferreira were looking to retake the lead for Houston, but he just missed that one as he was trying to head it in the back post. I mean, he was all alone in the back post. You got to question who in the world was marking him there when the ball was coming in, but thankfully for LAFC, they got away with one there. Speaking of getting away with it, heading into the second half with the score tied at 1 apiece after Clark denied Opoku from close range, Dorsey was able to chip one over the head of Craig Pope, but Escobar was just able to clear that one off the line. But that probably shouldn't have happened if Chiellini didn't just give the ball away. Like, that was a very unlike Chiellini mistake. I mean, we talk about being one of the best defender in the world, and that is something we don't see often, where he just cheaply give the ball away like that, and that Griffin Dorsey almost the recipient of that, and just could not quite put enough speed on that chip, and that Escobar was just able to get back in this line to clear it off the line. But there was no doubt LAFC was left off the hook. Like, that should have been the second goal for the Dynamo, and they kind of responds that of realizing that they need to get that second goal. Here's the problem: Steve Clark was feeling in this game, and it feels like he was going back to his prime Portland Timbers form, because he first would rob Bale on a point-blank effort in the 68th minute before Bale's shot was clear off the line by Tim Parker, as LAFC again pounding on the door. But again, Clark, he's basically a wall right now. He was not allowing any more go past him, and that included in the 71st minute when Holland had a header that was struck the post, but Bale gets the rebound and once again was robbed by Steve Clark. And I just couldn't resist by saying that, yeah, for Bale, he's going to have nightmares about Steve Clark, because he's been robbed twice by Steve Clark, once by Tim Parker off the line. He could have easily had a hat trick up to that point in his quick substitute appearance. But man, the soccer gods was definitely not with Gareth Bale, and that was kind of the case with LAFC too, because really against the run of play in the 75th minute, remember that chip that Griffin Dorsey, of course, had a chance to give Houston the lead, and he wasn't able to take advantage of it. Well, he made up for it, and he made up for it in a big way, as he would score from Carrasquilla in the 75th minute. I mean, he just ripped apart that LAFC defense and put an ice cold curling of a shot into the back, and then almost a very Ricky Puig-esque kind of curler in the back of the net. And just like that, out of nowhere, it's 2-1 in favor of Houston, despite LAFC were by far the better team up to that point, and it looked like they were on verge of getting that second goal. And really, as the time winds down, I thought Houston really kind of neutralized that LAFC attack, though again, maybe part of that is the fact that LAFC was completely shell-shocked. Like, they were creating so many opportunities to get that second goal, only for them to give up a goal. And we've seen this before, where when you are the better team and you don't put away your opportunity, and as soon as you give another goal, the mentality changes and the momentum changes, and it takes a huge psychological hit on you. And that kind of was the case for LAFC. Like, they were stunned, the fact that now they found themselves 2-1 down. Now, in the 5th minute stoppage time, we did had a red card that was shown, and actually the only red card of this week midweek action, with Darwin Saren getting his second yellow card. But thankfully for Houston, that was late enough where LAFC couldn't take advantage with them being a man up. And yeah, in the end, Houston, a last place team in the Western Conference, beating the first place team in the West, that is LAFC. I mean, again, this is something that you just cannot write in Other League. Like in Other League, you don't see this happen often, but in MLS, it's almost normal. Especially, it kind of just almost happened a couple of weeks ago when LAFC played against the Quakes, and that you thought that the Quakes had no shot against LAFC, and they pull off the same score line with a 2-1 win against LAFC. But the shots in this one, 19 shots compared to 10 that Houston had, 8 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Dynamo has, 3 shots off target compared to 9 that LAFC had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that LAFC had, and possession-wise, LAFC did have the better of the possession, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Houston has. But it doesn't matter because in the end, Steve Clark was an absolute wall, and also just some unlucky break for LAFC is the reason why they're on the losing end. And you know, I know overall this game was a very unlucky game for LAFC, and maybe on a better day they could of course get all 3 points. What happens if they have these kind of games in the playoffs? And again, this is where again, when you are heading into the playoffs and you have that MLS Cup or bust mentality, you just gotta be perfect in all of these games. And I'm just worried again for LAFC, even though this wasn't a big game. I revert what I said about the last game against Austin, where in a big game and they weren't able to deliver. Yeah, it is definitely a concern, and I definitely won't blame for some LAFC fans that maybe started heading into the panic level where, yeah, you know, yes, the team is still considered one of the best team in the league, but when it really matters, they aren't able to pull through. One thing is going to be remembered, if that's the case, where it's going to be another failure of a season for LAFC, and that they're starting kind of becoming like NYCFC a couple of years ago, just cannot get over the hump despite years and years being the best team in the league. But that being said, moving on into the next match, we got Nashville and the Colorado Rapids, and it's safe to say that Nashville, they've woke up, because these last couple of games that they have played, it is pretty clear that ever since they lost to Minnesota, which that was really kind of the low point for this Nashville team, and then finding himself below the red line, Gary Smith must have said some choice words to his team, and must have maybe even set up a team meeting with his team, because this team has been on fire ever since that rock bottom moment, and it's almost a feeling that, yeah, they're actually are supposed to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And you know, for Nashville, this is definitely a great thing now that they're starting to make a run just in time when playoffs is about to begin. Now, in the first half, Willis did deny Barrios from close range, as there was not really much chances early in this game. Shots were only 2-0 through 25 minutes. But then in the 28th minute, a penalty was given to Nashville after Estevez brought down layout in the box, which, you know who's going to be the one that takes the penalty? It's Hani Mukhtar, and he buries that one to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. But the problem is, the lead did not last long, because in the 34th minute, just 6 minutes after Nashville took the lead, Colorado equalized. It's Jarzy Zardes scoring from Beta Shore and Rubio to tied the game up at 1 apiece. And I'll tell you what, ever since Jarzy Zardes started to score goal for the Colorado Rapids, he has definitely looked like the old Jarzy Zardes that we know. And you wonder, maybe, just maybe, he might have a small glimmer of hope to get into the World Cup roster. I mean, probably not, but, you know, with him scoring goals like that, and if he continues to score the goals, maybe Greg Berhalter will be tempting to at least invite him in the September camp and just kind of have a good look to see whether or not, if he still has it, and get himself back into the U.S. men's national team conversation, which I know a lot of U.S. men's national team definitely don't want that to happen. But in the 44th minute, Schaffelberg looked to get the lead back for Nashville, but it's denied by Yarbrough. Jacob Schaffelberg had another good game in this one, and I think it's safe to say that his move to Nashville SC, albeit only on a loan move, is started to pay pivotal. And we've seen this before, when a player maybe is low confident with a team, and that sometimes they just need a change of scenery, it will definitely help them. And Jacob Schaffelberg is just the latest of an evidence that when you, of course, have a change of scenery, a change of system, sometimes you'll perform well. And right now, Jacob Schaffelberg has performed very well in a short time with the system that Gary Smith and this Nashville team is running. Because, in fact, heading into the second half, as the score remained tied up, he had another great chance in the 49th minute, but missed just wide after Yarbrough denied Sapon from the box. But I thought it was a positive start for Nashville to begin the second half as they were looking to retake the lead, and they do. In the 55th minute, it's Mukhtar scoring from Leao and Moore to give Nashville a 2-1 lead, though this is one that I think Yarbrough probably should have done better because, Mukhtar kind of hit this one right to Yarbrough, and again, Willie Yarbrough this season, there's been times that he's been making some incredible saves, and then there's times where he does that and makes some saves that or give up goals that he probably shouldn't have given up. And yeah, overall, certainly one moment that he doesn't want to remember. But for Mukhtar, he wouldn't care because he'd give Nashville the lead again. But in the 61st minute, I'm talking about Jacob Schaffelberg has been having a good game. Well, he finally took advantage of it and finally were rewarded with a goal as he scored here to make it 3-1 in favor of Nashville. It was almost 4-1 when Yarbrough would deny Leao from long range. I mean, Leao was feeling it. That after that goal in the last game, it definitely had energized him. But there was no doubt it was all Nashville in the second half. And Colorado, they looked like they were down and out. Like they looked like they were giving up, and maybe that might be the same case in terms of their playoff chances. Yarbrough then denied Mukhtar of a hat trick in the 68th minute. I thought the counterattack was lethal for Nashville up to that point, and this was kind of the same mistake that Colorado fell in, because in that loss against Nashville early this season, one of the reasons why they got blitzed in that 9 minutes was Nashville just keep hitting Colorado on the counterattack. And it doesn't feel like Robin Fraser, for a smart head coach like him, doesn't seem like he made any adjustment to change that, because Nashville at times was running wild on the transition. And in the 75th minute, Mukhtar finally gets a hat trick as he scored here to make it 4-1 in favor of Nashville, and that is the final score of this game. I mean, Mukhtar, a couple of games this season, has flirted with a hat trick, but this was finally the game that he, of course, gets one, and most likely is going to get the Player of the Week honors. But in the end, Nashville, another big win here to push themselves up to 5th place, and now getting to a point where they might be a threat in terms of getting home field advantage. I mean, I talked about before, it was RSL, FC Dallas, and Minnesota basically fighting for home field advantage. Nashville has now entered the conversation because of the good run that they've been having in the last couple of games. But in terms of shots in this one, 17 shots for the 10 that the Rapids had, 10 shots on goal for the 2 that the Rapids had, 3 shots off target for the 5 that the Rapids had, and possession-wise, or actually 3 shots off target compared to 5 that the Rapids had. Oh, did I say that? Yeah, I did. Then it's 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that the Rapids had, and I actually forgot to write the possession stats for this, but I'm pretty sure Colorado did have most of the possession, because again, most of the goals that Nashville has, and most of the attack, as it is the case how this team set up, is on the transition, so they probably didn't have as much possession as what I thought it is. But either way, again, another big win for Nashville. But for Colorado, like I said, their playoff hope is definitely on life support. If anyway, they're pretty much now in see you next season mode. And what a disappointing year this has been for Robin Fraser, and maybe I would also say kind of a year where it feels like they're back to reality. I mean, last year, I think, I don't want to say that it was a fluke that they finished first in the Western Conference, because there's that sense of belief that they had in terms of the hard work to get them to the top of the Western Conference. This season, that's not been the case. I mean, this season, it's been shown that, the quality that they have, which is not very good, they just could not quite overperform that, and now once again find themselves in a very familiar position of potentially missing out on the playoffs and being a bottom feeder in the Western Conference. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match, and speaking of playoffs, and speaking of a team that have definitely woke up in these last couple of games and have been having a renaissance, that's Orlando City. And remember a couple of years ago when they always tend to score late goals, and how they earned the nickname the Cardiac Cats? Seems like the Cardiac Cats are back, because this is the 3rd straight game that Orlando City has been scoring a late winner to get all 3 points. I mean, I keep telling myself they simply cannot keep doing this, and they did it again. And they might have just sank Seattle's hope in terms of the playoffs because of that. But in terms of the game itself, and again, I talk about weather delay. This was one of the two games that, of course, had that weather delay. This game, of course, was delayed for, I believe, almost two hours. In fact, both of these games was actually delayed almost around the same time. This one, of course, eventually would kick off at 9:21 p.m. local time, which means that maybe we're gonna get some MLS After Dark kind of energy, and we definitely did get some MLS After Dark energy in this one. And it started off in the 26th minute when Rusnak scored a wonderful free kick to give the Seattle Sounder a 1-0 lead. I mean, Rusnak is not a guy that's known to score great free kick, but he absolutely puts this one beautifully and curls this one past Galese, and yeah, that gives the Sounders a 1-0 lead. Though it looked like the goal or the lead wouldn't last long because a penalty was given to Orlando after Madrona brought down Giacchini in the box. Now, this was a highly debatable penalty, and in some way, probably this call was incorrect because when you look on the replay, it looked like it was Giacchini the one that maybe initiated the contact, and he's trying to step on the foot of Madrona to basically he draws the penalty. But either way, they said that it is a penalty. And in the 31st minute, here comes Mauricio Pereira trying to tie the game up for Orlando City, and he couldn't do so because Fry was able to come up big to deny him from the spot. Though Torres had the chance on the rebound, but he blasted that one over as he was trying to shoot an empty net. And I guess that's just an example of it. Just a classic example of the ball don't lie. Like, the ball don't lie whenever there's a soft penalty that is committed. I mean, sometimes it does, but in this case, it definitely don't lie, and it's not a big surprise Orlando wasn't able to capitalize because of that. Though they tried to capitalize it again in the 36th minute, and Fry once again had to make a big save, robbing Angolo from point blank. And it feels like this was one of those games for Stephen Fry. Like, he was not going to allow anything past his net, and he was trying to steal one for Seattle because up to that point, Orlando looked like they had the momentum. But we do head to halftime with the Sounders leading 1-0. It'll quickly be 2-0 in favor of the Sounders heading into the second half, as in the 52nd minute, guess who? Raul Ruidiaz would score to give the Sounders a 2-0 lead. And before the Sounders had a chance to enjoy that 2-goal lead, it quickly evaporated back down to 1 because Facundo Torres would score from Latino to make it 2-1 in this game. And I mean, buckle up because there's going to be some MLS After Dark energy that we're about to get in this one. And in fact, we would get so in the 66th minute when a penalty was given to Orlando, as Jordan Morris actually handballed that one in the box. Like, it's MLS After Dark when Jordan Morris would be the one that handballs it in the penalty. Like, Jordan Morris doesn't usually give up a penalty, and usually doesn't handball that one. Like, a striker doesn't usually be the victim of a handball in the box. But yeah, that of course was the case in that sequence, which it gives a penalty for Orlando City once again. And again, this time I think it was the right call because you can definitely see Morris' hand was outstretched there, which again, Carr was able to bury this one after Orlando decided that, yeah, maybe Mauricio Pereira stepping from the spot is not a great idea. This has been one of the big problems for Orlando City, where when it comes to choosing who's going to take the penalty, it's been a problem. Like, we saw that last year where they had that problem with Nani was supposed to be the one that takes the penalty, but then they learned that Nani is not good at penalty kick taking. And I think, again, they learned that maybe Pereira is not good at penalty kick taking too. And in this case, Carl, I thought he just struck it hard enough to pass Fry, because Fry actually guessed it the right way, but with the power of that PK, it just went by Stephen Fry there. But nevertheless, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece, and that Sounders lead that they had about 17 minutes ago, it is now gone, and it is a new game in this one. And I just had a sense, oh boy, this is going to get very excited with how crazy we have got to that point. In fact, in the 70th minute, the guy that got the equalizer for Orlando City, he almost gave them the lead as Kara was able to try to hit that one in, but Fry just tips that one onto the post. But as it ricocheted off the post, Angola had a chance to hit it in on the rebound, but unfortunately he didn't put enough power into it, and it goes right back to Fry. Galese then denied Ladero from long range, but then in the first minute of stoppage time, Facundo Torres, Kyle Smith of all players would score for Facundo Torres to give Orlando City a 3-2 lead, or at least that's what we thought at that point, because they said that the goal was disallowed because of offside, and apparently I think they thought that maybe oh god, who was it for the Orlando City player? I can't really quite think of it, because again, it is late at night. My brain is almost fried right now. But one thing I know is that also actually took a deflection off of Jackson Reagan, and I think the reason why they eventually overturned this is that even though one of the Orlando player was in an offside position, because that one hit Jackson Reagan first and it deflected in, that kind of neglect the offside. But yeah, either way, that of course gives the third goal in stoppage time, and the third straight week that Orlando City has scored a stoppage time winner. And yeah, they with that they have now propelled themselves. I believe actually I think they're still in fifth in the Eastern Conference, because I know the Red Bulls of course won, so they didn't really gain any ground out of it. But either way, one thing that does help is that they have now propelled themselves in a spot where they are actually looking more comfortable in the playoff standing, and are staying away from the chaos, which is the playoff bubble right now, and just above the red line. But in terms of shots in this one, 19 shots for the 8 that the Sounders had, 9 shots on goal for the 3 that the Sounders had, 5 shots off target compared to the 4 that the Sounders had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Sounders had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that the Sounders has, or that Orlando City has in this game. And like I said, for Orlando City, the Cardiac Cats is back. They are definitely using that kind of magic to really get themselves in a good playoff position, whereas a couple of weeks ago it looked like that was in real jeopardy with them heading into their usual second half tailspin. But for the Seattle Sounders, I mean, I hate to say this, but it feels like maybe the end of the line is coming for this team, and that maybe for the first time in their franchise history, they're going to be missing the playoffs. And I feel like, after winning CCL, maybe that was going to be the case, because you know how whenever teams go deep in CCL, and even when they win it, the whole thing like the Sounders just did for the first time ever, yeah, you knew that maybe that is going to come back to haunt them later in the season with the fatigue and stuff like that, because you can definitely see, it feels like the Sounders team are just completely fatigued. Like they look very tired out. Doesn't look like they have any left in the tank to make a playoff run. And that, at the end of the day, if you're a Sounders fan, it's kind of hard to judge how this season is, because on one point, it's still kind of considered a success, because they did something that no MLS team has ever done, and have done something that finally is something that alert a lot of MLS team, and really just in CCL in general, to really give MLS a logical argument of why maybe it has a leg over Liga MX right now. But on the other hand, they missed the playoffs, and this is the first time that, of course, has happened, and that Sounders fan, they do not take missing the playoffs and take failure very lightly, and that, again, it's going to be a weird feeling for Sounders fan this off season, and that, whether they will be happy that they won something, but they missed the playoffs the first time, or they'll say that, well, it doesn't matter because we want to keep the playoff streak. We want to have a chance to win MLS Cup again. And in a year that it looked like we were going to do with the squad that we built, that, yeah, to miss the playoffs like that is definitely considered a catastrophic failure. But moving on into the last game on this board, and finally talk about the last game, because, man, I am just really tired right now. I mean, you can even tell it from my voice there. And probably this maybe was a bad idea to do this late at night. Like it's what 2:04 in the morning right now in Salt Lake City, and I have to get up early tomorrow, probably about 10 a.m. to fly back to San Francisco. But that being said, moving into the last game, which is Austin versus the Portland Timbers, and again, this is another game that of course had a weather delay, as this game didn't kick off until 9:51, so even later than the one between Orlando and Seattle. But despite the fact that it kicked off very late, unlike the one in the game between Orlando and Seattle, where you can definitely see it, that stadium was maybe a quarter full. Q2 Stadium was almost like 2/3 full in this one. I mean, for a really late kickoff like that, the fact that the Austin fans stay in and that supporter section is still packed to the ring, you gotta give a lot of credit to Los Verdes fan. Like I mentioned before, in terms of some of the best fan base in the league, which I think maybe at the end of this year or maybe in the future I might do a power rankings or maybe rank some of the best fans in MLS, because I feel like that's a video that maybe I've been waiting to do for a long time, compared to the stadium ranking video that I also want to do for a long time. But Austin fans have definitely been one of the best fans in the league, and again, it's shown. I mean, usually the stands would be pretty empty when a game kicks off that late. Not in Verde land. They party all night long, and that again, it still was very full, especially the supporters section where it was packed, and you wouldn't have noticed that we actually even had a weather delay. But in the 4th minute, Ivicic robbed Gallagher from point blank before he denied Urruti from close range. Again, this feels like it was a usual Austin start where they had some good chances early in this one. In fact, in the 10th minute, Ring actually struck the post on the header, and it looked like Austin was knocking on the door to get an early lead against the Portland Timbers. But then the Timbers almost score against the run of play when Jimmy Chara shot was clear off the line by Gabrielson. I mean, it looked like that one was going to go in, but somehow, in some way, Gabrielson just able to get back on his lines to clear that one away. But unfortunately, that was all for naught, because just 2 minutes later, the Timbers would eventually score again, and it's that man again, Bill Tuiluma. He loved scoring against Austin, did it earlier this season. He would do it again in this one from Williamson to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. In fact, this was a great night for the Timbers in terms of their center back, because I think both of their center back were able to get the two only goal that they had, and I don't think I remember the last time where you have two center backs that were able to score the only 2 goals to, of course, win a game for a team. But that's what the Timbers did in this one. I mean, it was also come off of a set piece where it was a beautiful delivery from Williamson, but also some questionable defending from Austin. Like the fact that Tuiluma was left wide open like that. Yeah, somebody missed a marking there, and that they were basically made to pay for it. Asprilla then tried to stab one in from close to the 28th minute, but he wasn't able to do so, and the momentum clearly switched to Portland's side. Like Austin were the better team up until the goal that they conceded, and now it seems like the Timbers were the one that has the momentum, and we're looking for the second goal. But Fagundes then puts one right to Ivicic on the free kick, and we head to halftime with the Timbers leading 1-0, and it could have been tied up in the second half, as there was a chaos in the Timbers box where Austin had a lot of opportunity to tap one in. It was one of those balls where it was pinball into the box. It was asking for someone to strike it in, and Jerisi had the chance to do so on the header, but he struck that one off the post. Stuver then denied Chara in the 59th minute. I thought the counterattack for the Timbers were very lethal, and I had a feeling it was going to be, because again, this is an Austin team. They like to play an open game, and one thing that the Timbers love to do is that they want to go on the counterattack. And when you play against a team that likes to be open, yeah, you're going to find some space on the counterattack, which is why coming into this game, I was interested to see maybe Josh Wolf might not be playing an open game against a team that knows how to counter. It seems like that may be a memo that Josh Wolf did not listen, because it was still kind of very open with the way how Austin was playing in this one, because in the 72nd minute they were made pay for being too lapsadaisy on the defensive side, as McGraw would actually score for the Portland Timbers. I believe that's the first goal that Zach McGraw has scored in a very long time, if not the first career MLS goal for Zach McGraw too, because I don't remember the last time he has scored a goal, and again, it makes sense because he's a defender, and again, it's very, very odd that you see a game where for the team that of course scored the 2 winning goals, it comes from the center back, but that's how it is in this one, and it gives the Timbers a 2-0 lead, but that lead was quickly back down to 1 because Driussi would strike again for Austin. How many times I've said that with Austin FC this season? I mean, him along with Mukhtar, I think are the 2 front runners of winning MVP this season. But here, Driussi would score for Martins and Rain to give life once again back to the Verde, and in fact, it's not just life. It just feels like here we go again. We know the script. We know that Austin eventually is going to get an equalizer or maybe even get a 3rd goal to win the game, but that did not happen this time because I think maybe the Timbers saw that script before, so they decided that they want to maybe think about going for a 3rd goal to really secure this. Nishikota had the chance to do so, but Stuver was able to deny him. And then in the first minute of stoppage time, as the Timbers realized that they need to maybe bunker a little bit and hold on to this lead, Felipe had a chance in the back post. In fact, he was open in the back post, but he blasted that one in the stands. And this kind of came after Driussi actually mishit his bicycle effort, but somehow still kind of fall kindly to Felipe. But Felipe just could not quite keep that one down, and yeah, that was a big missed opportunity for Austin. And in the end, in a season where they usually are at an end where they were able to come from behind and get a victory after getting a goal back, they weren't able to do so in this one. And I think this also is an example to show that this is why for Austin, I've said it many times this season, they simply cannot afford to fall down so many times at home, because eventually that magic is going to run out, and it definitely ran out in this game against the Portland Timbers. But that is not before they actually put up 26 shots in this one compared to 14 that the Timbers had. But the problem is only 5 of them was on target compared to 5 that the Timbers had. They had 16 shots that was off target compared to 5 that the Timbers had. 5 shots that was blocked for the 4 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 70% possession compared to 30% possession that the Portland Timbers has in this game. And overall, for the Timbers, this is why after that Cascadia win and how big that win is, it can definitely give a momentum for a team. And it feels like we're seeing the story again for the Timbers. They're making a late playoff push, and that they're trying to get themselves above the red line. And I wouldn't bet against them of doing so, because going to Austin and getting all 3 points is definitely not easy. Even though Austin have had some struggle at home this season, it's still not an easy feat, and the fact that Timbers able to do it will definitely dramatically help their playoff chances. But for Austin, there's no doubt that they suffer a bit of a hangover in that game against LAFC. And also, this felt like a very typical Austin game, in a game where there's times where they look dominant, but then they gave up some silly goals because of defensive mistake, and then fall behind the 8 ball and trying to play catch up again. And like I said, when you try to do that so many times, eventually that magic is going to run out. And again, it feels like that magic ran out for Austin in this one, unable to come back and drop all 3 points at home in this one against the Portland Timbers. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 11 of these games. And again, it was a relatively long review because there was a lot to talk about. But if you enjoyed this review, let me know in the comments below. And again, I do apologize if the lighting is not good, and especially me sounding very tired, because like I said, it is now 2:13 in the morning here in Salt Lake City, and I think I'm not even going to be thinking about rendering this. I'll probably just go straight to bed and maybe do that when I get back home. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.